Frank, what are you smoking? Is it legal?
Unfortunately, this is legal in every state. This is a Paul Garmarian cigar. It's a cigar that's manufactured in Virginia. It is a mild and delicious cigar.
So, over the last few days, the last week, we've seen a pile-on from the Republican establishment on Ted Cruz, like I don't think we've ever seen on a candidate before. Do you want to, what's your take on that?
Well, number one, I have to say it's very surprising to me. I think there is a kind of understanding.
Wait a minute and say, can you describe it? Like when we say a pile-on, the establishment is saying what?
Well, they're saying that Cruz would be the candidate that most represents a difficulty down ballot for Republicans running for Senate and for
even more than Trump.
Even more than Trump. The first indication of this was coming out of the House retreat, where there was leaking of a poll that said that Cruz really hurts candidates down ballot more than Trump. And today there was a piling on by Governor Branstad, supposedly on the question of ethanol and the effect it would have on Iowa and the Iowa economy. But it is unprecedented in my mind to see somebody who is an elected official running against a complete outsider, where the elected official is really resisted almost as strongly by, or more strongly, by the Republican establishment than the outsider is.
So Cruz is now the ultimate outsider, and Trump is echoing that attack, saying, whoa, this guy's really hated by the Washington establishment. Do you think that the Washington Republican establishment thinks that they could do a deal with Trump easier than they could with Cruz?
Well, I don't know what all of the elements are, but I think that there is a sense that, especially against Hillary Clinton, Trump brings across a portion of the Democratic constituency, particularly downscale white male voters, in larger numbers than they think that maybe anybody else could. And that in recalibrating this and trying to figure out, if it comes down to Trump and Cruz, which one could do better in a race against Hillary. I'm not sure that they're entirely right about this, but I think that's part of the calculation. And the other is there's just a large degree of personal animosity about somebody who hasn't played the Washington game, who has set himself as up as an outsider, that is Cruz, who's attacked the establishment portion of his own party regularly, and part of what has made his name for himself.
So Trump says, I'm better at doing deals in Washington. Do you think that's a good message for him?
Well, I don't know if that's a great message as it relates to voters, but I do think that it has some appeal to people who say, who can we work better with? Who's going to be more disruptive of the existing power structures? Who's going to allow the Congress to have its own priorities? It will be Cruz or Trump, and I think some people have made the assessment that Trump may be easier to work with than Cruz.
So do you think Trump's refusal to prioritize the First Amendment Defense Act is an example of that? Like the donor class, the consultant class, they don't want to have a fight with anything that's perceived as anti-gay, and the left is defining religious liberty as anti-gay.
The short answer is yes. I think that's one of the issues, but I think they think that Cruz's confrontational style is one in which they are going to have to, if Cruz were the president, choose between a posture of confrontation, or what in Trump's case may be more a posture of deal making, and they worry that both in the election itself and were either of the two men to be elected, that Cruz would be more difficult to deal with.
All right, so I know I'm repeating, but it's really striking. Between Trump and Cruz, who does the Washington establishment now think is more likely to be disruptive and hard to deal with?
It's becoming increasingly clear that the Washington establishment is more afraid of Ted Cruz than it is of Donald Trump.